All right, I think it's going.
All right, today is Monday, November 4th, 2024, and this is a work session of the Pocahontas Public Schools. I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Arbuckle.
Okay, this evening we're going to spend some time just talking about the Alma Spikes demolition project along with the abatement. We've got Todd and Katie with us representing our architect, and they've got some things that I kind of jotted down a few notes here on my own, and then I've got a couple of things that Chad had sent me as well. So I don't know if we just kind of want to talk real quick about the scope, the idea, and Todd, if I say anything that's not accurate, you correct me, right? And if you say anything not accurate, Katie will fix it for both of us. How about that, right? The idea is that we're going to go in on the main building and all the support buildings. We've got to first do an abatement, an asbestos abatement on the main building and the pods, the other pods that are there.
Let me ask a question. Is there asbestos in each pod? The 69 pods shouldn't have.
I believe there was.
There is in the 69.
Yeah, it's mostly in the floor throughout, like those pods, different, like the floor where there's the 8x8 tiles, that's asbestos tile, typically anywhere you find that. And then the adhesive floor has it, but then one of the pods doesn't have it in the flooring, which may be the one that you're talking about. It's in the window caulking though, all of the classroom windows in that pod. And then the food storage building has it in the sheetrock ceiling, and none of the other, and then one of the parent center buildings has it in the flooring, but the other outbuildings don't have it. All the pods though have it, yeah.
And so we need to do that. We've also got the actual demolition. The way I understand it, the way we're going to bid it is as two separate pieces, but a company can come in and bid on both pieces, right? And there were some things when I wasn't able to go to the pre-bid meeting, and Craig was there, and Katie was there, and there were some questions that kind of came out of that meeting. I know there was a couple of conversations, or at least one conversation with Craig concerned about the window for the demolition. I think right now the window for that demolition is 90 days. Katie and I talked that is a time frame that can be negotiated at various times. We can put in a different window to start before we actually sign the contract. We can negotiate that window as well. The reason for the window is to protect the school district, though. The idea is that we want to make sure that our project gets priority, right? And so if we don't have a window and somebody just chooses not to work because they want to go do somebody else's project, then those are lost days for us, right? And there was I think there was a concern by one of the individuals who was here that the 90-day window was pretty short. It may drive up the bids because people are just assuming they're not going to get it done in 90 days. So I thought we could talk about, what is although the window is negotiable, I want to put it in whatever window we think is a valid window on the front end. Right? And so, that's a 3-month window. Do we want to go to a 6-month window or a, 5-month window, given the fact that we're doing this work basically in the winter, right?
Assuming whoever wins the bid starts immediately.
Well, that's largely what they were concerned about. So the way that like our specs on every project, any specs that they get, it has that, like any architect puts in there, because they need to, make plans. Can we do this in that amount of time?
Yeah.
So the time's in there, and they were because these are being bid as two separate projects, like a demolition contractor who wasn't looking at an asbestos project for this, thinks that 90 days, yeah, starts after the bid, they're starting. But then they find out, oh, there's asbestos abatement, is that, that makes my 90 days maybe only 30 or 45 days, and that's too short for, like, that was some of the confusion, at least at the pre-bid. And I'm assuming then whoever spoke with you, that was probably the same concern, was really because asbestos has to happen first before they can start. And so we on our end, even like regardless of that time frame that we give them, we'll issue an addendum that clarifies, like, and I told everybody who was there were over 20 people there that day, that this will have to be coordinated with the asbestos contractor. And part of the flux here is that we don't know, say it's the same company that gets both projects. That coordination is going to look a lot different than two separate companies.
Sure.
And so, they may, if it's within the same company, they may start demoing buildings that don't have asbestos while the work's going on. We don't know. So that's part of why, talking to Dr. Arbuckle as well, we can't tell them exactly when they could start because we don't know the asbestos schedule, and that sort of thing.
And knowing when the abatement will occur.
Exactly, yeah.
When do you anticipate being to start?
They should be able to start asbestos, like once we get, so there will be the bid, there will be a small period where we review all of the numbers, make sure, that if there's one that's just outrageously lower than the rest, or, just something's weird, something seems off, you go through and check all of those, make sure they all understood and included the whole scope in their bid, that sort of thing. And then a contract will get signed between figure out the schedule. I mean, you're probably looking at, middle of December by the time they've got work coordinated, schedule-wise, contract signed, everything. So I imagine after the new year, they'll start. It may work.
Would it reasonably say January 15th?
Yeah, I would say
They should be able to get started.
beginning of the new year, especially the asbestos, being that that's the part that they'll be doing first. They should be able to start, the new year without, demolition would be different. If it's snowing, obviously, or something, that whole thing's different. But asbestos shouldn't have the same issues, so they could go in there and get started.
Well, would it be reasonable to put 120 days on it from the start?
So that contract, since they're two separate projects, that project has a different time frame. So that one, I think we've got 60 days, which is generous for asbestos, but not also, like that one nobody has raised questions about, because just getting everyone in there to see the scope last week was helpful.
So a 60-day contract would put us in March. Let's just use the 15th of January.
Yeah.
March 15th, and then it would be 90 days for demolition, 120.
Yeah.
So
but
that put us in the
that based on those times, But hopefully, the asbestos part, like when winter comes back and says we only need 30 days to do this, and so that
Doing
would push it up.
demolition in April and May, I mean, you get into rainy season, right? I mean, so, it seems like if it starts March 15th, worst case scenario, rather they need all 60 days, then you'll have maybe a week in March, a week or two in April, that it's not just, the ground aspect of it.
It won't matter too much for the demolition.
Well, the hauling off of everything, right? Because that's included, isn't the hauling off of all the materials included in the demolition contract?
That still shouldn't affect it.
It just depends on, like if it's super muddy, they're not going to put their heavy equipment out there to be tearing stuff out, and they're going to say we're sinking into the ground.
To be honest with you, we've done a lot of projects for 30 years. I've been on the board, and we've never penalized anybody if they're not like it.
And you what? Oh, no, well, that's the part, so it can, so before the contract is signed, what we have in our spec is like a draft, and that's where we say, you have this much time and whatnot. But before it's actually signed, it's a contract not even with us, like it's between y'all and the contractor. I'm just explaining, you can, so if you change that time, whatever, like asbestos may say, we need 30 days, hold us to it, and so you put that in there, but then there's change orders throughout. Like a change order would be anything that affects the time or the cost of the project. And so, or the scope, which would affect all of that. So if it rains for 2 weeks straight and it's reasonable that they couldn't get out there and be doing the work, you know, if it's like, seems like a good excuse for them, then it's different. But if
And
it's
we've done
reasonable,
that
then
on the
there's a change
elementary
order.
school. Remember, we had an issue with muddy. You know, you gotta be reasonable. So there's
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they're just
what would
going
be
to
your
some other project.
suggestion, to break them out and do an asbestos time frame, like 60 days, and then do a demolition time frame of 120 days?
Yeah, we can, I mean, they are broken out. Right now, they're two separate
We
time
can put in there
frames.
too, that the 120 days for the demo doesn't start until the asbestos.
Yeah, like just a small clarification like that, I think would make it,
That sounds reasonable to me.
like, no, but the main concern is that, yeah, they're like, well, what if it takes the asbestos guys, 2 months, and then I only have a month? It's, where is that 90 days won't have started?
It just needs to be clarified in writing.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't feel like we're rushing to get it done. I mean, if we get it done, we get it done. But I think giving it 180 days, like if you've got the next 6 months tearing this building down, it's, if it takes the next
Yeah.
6 months to tear the building down.
Yeah,
And it's,
and the
Well,
good
the issue
thing,
is if they
there are a
run.
lot of people interested, so that's going to keep them
yeah, I
like
mean, we're not rushing
honest
to get
with
it
a
done.
time frame and a schedule. They're
That's
going
good.
to come in, I mean, their bid has to reflect truthfully the manpower or the equipment they can get out here at once, you know, and
Yeah.
all of that, because there are a lot of, I mean, there were over 20 people at the, and they're not all from, there were like 2 people, you know, from some of them and stuff, but still, they're aware that there's a lot of interest, so they have to make a good estimate of the time it will take them for this bid. So that'll keep it honest though, even though it's not a rush, at least it's not, 4-hour work days. We could have done it twice as fast, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess my concern is I don't wanna artificially inflate the bids on the front end because they're concerned about getting it done on
No.
time.
Which can happen if they feel like they have to rush and,
Right, and then we're
you
getting,
know.
and then
that's
we're
how
paying more money
construction
for,
goes,
right, we're paying,
We
Pay
can
for speed.
extend that time and make it clear, like we can issue this addendum with other things, that we need to clear up. And we can extend that time, we can say 120 days, or whatever y'all are comfortable with having them at too. And also make it clear this doesn't start until, and yeah, I've told almost all
The
of them.
clarification seems like it would solve a lot of the
I think
questions.
it would, because they've done this, I mean, it's just, this is different in that a lot of times asbestos work is part of it's all one contract. Because you may just be renovating this part of the building, and asbestos may be throughout, but you only have to get rid of it in this part, and it's all one contract, so they're scheduling it. It's like the type A people, they're like, normally it's all under our schedule, like I'm taking care of it all, so it's a little bit off, I think, for some of them, because they're like, that's a whole different contract.
Right.
I don't know how long it'll take, it may not be my people, so.
I would just suggest that Dr. Arbrook will work with Todd and Katie and just work out a reasonable thing. Move on to the
Are we including the Kwanzaa Hut? We're gonna leave it? What are we gonna do with it?
Actually, I have someone I need to send you that has interest in purchasing it. So that might
We-
work out.
I mean, we could do that, or we could,
Repurpose it?
yeah, that's where I was gonna go, but,
I mean,
so, okay,
interim until we figure out what we're gonna do over there in the long term.
right.
So you're just gonna work with them, y'all clarify the language.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a question about, okay, well, actually, let's work through this first. One of the things that Chad had indicated is he had some thoughts on the slab. So at this point, I'm going into this thinking from a scope of work standpoint, and this is the way I've directed Todd and Katie, is when we go in and we demo that building, we're gonna demo the building, we're gonna pull the slab, we're gonna pull the utilities. I understand that what I've been told is the utility lines underneath that building are not good. Going back to, I mean, that was the one thing I can remember when we were sitting there talking to Mark Van Camp that one night. The one thing he said was the utility lines under there were not good.
Just so low.
Right, and so my thought was pulling them out. One of the things that Chad wanted to kind of share or visit about was he was thinking we'd leave the slab. So, you know,
I'd say we take it to a vacant lot, everything out,
You're
my
right.
personal
We
opinion.
need to start from scratch.
Yeah, either
I
way.
sure don't want to spend any of the district's money on a new building, on an old slab that's gonna have problems later down the road, when we know that the
Right.
lines have
Well,
been there
I
for
just think
decades.
it's best, like we talked, and we did talk, Mr. Van Camp was very, you know,
Very clear.
about that building better than anybody, take it back to the street where the city utilities stop.
Right, and that was the idea, is that we're gonna take the utilities back to the north sidewalk and cap those off right there. Okay, so that brings me to the second bullet point on there is there was some conversation at the pre-bid meeting, and I think again I believe this was a conversation that maybe somebody had with Craig there, so he might be able to share more detail on that. But the thought process or the question was, were we going to plan on using some of that concrete debris on the east side of that lot to level that out? Because as I understand it, I think that lot goes down, right? And if the idea was we were going to eventually level it anyway, the thought process was there was that concrete debris could
Fill it in.
filler, right? And then you put dirt on top of that. I think there's two things to concern ourselves with. One, the feasibility of that, right? But two, one of the conversations that the mayor and I have been having is the future of that lot in between us tearing it down and putting something else there. And so we've talked about a park, or we've talked about, you know, some kind of public use space there. And that, I don't know if filling it in using that debris is even something is that going to inhibit the park process, or, I mean, I don't know. So I'm putting it out there because it was asked of me.
And I never thought about it, one thing I would say, we want to reflect what time. And I'm afraid if we put that in there, it's just gonna be a pile of concrete for years. You know what I'm saying?
Are we talking about the playground side,
Yeah.
the big kids playground?
The Harps end.
Okay.
Yeah, the harp stand, that's a good way to say it.
Where it goes down.
Well, that's not
Okay.
gonna create an eyesore for because, you know, if we put that in there, we're gonna have to bring.
I mean, we'd have to put some dirt in there, that's
We're
right.
gonna have to bring a lot of dirt.
I feel like tearing all that stuff out and not doing anything else with it, just leave it until we decide what we're gonna do with it. I mean, because you're gonna have to put money into it just to fill that in.
Right.
And then we might not even keep it, you know what I mean? Like, I just think put more money into it.
Especially considering we don't have a plan.
Right.
finalized
Well,
for what
and
we're
I
gonna do with that
think
land.
you make a point that it's kind of elephant in the room, you know, what about, you know, Keith and I talked, what are we gonna do to this property in the meantime? We don't know when the school district's gonna need it. We would like to, but then I think we all in agreement that we need the community to enjoy it if they can, in whatever manner.
So I'll start that.
They can with a bunch of concrete out there.
Right, I'll start that. I mean, Craig and I and the mayor and Mark all met, the Parks and Rec guy, all met out there and talked about what that would look like. And is that something that the city is interested in? And I don't want to speak for you, Keith, but the answer was, yeah. I mean, the city's willing to help us on that. They're willing to help maintain it. They're willing to, in fact, I think Keith had an idea there that maybe one of the slabs we do leave is the outbuilding on that northeast side, right? And maybe use that as a skate facility, right? Let kids have that for skateboards and that kind of thing.
Dr. Arbuckle, if I could speak.
Jump in, yes, sir.
And I know mentioned him, I've got to be back at the office for a call, so, I know I've talked to Gary and Jennifer about it, and Ms. Holt, I haven't talked to you about it, but Dr. Arbuckle and I met. The city would be glad, after the building is gone, to come in and take over that piece of property and maintain it, if you will. And then 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, we'd have an MOU, of course, and then if the school needed it back for something, it'd be there. My thoughts, you all talking about removing the concrete and putting it somewhere, I would not want, if I was looking at that property for something else, because if you cover that concrete and you go do some other construction, you run into that concrete in the ground, that just kills you. And one of the gentlemen who I know is going to place a bid on that called me today and asked if the city had somewhere, if he got the bid, you know, part of his bid, to haul that off if we could use it. And I said, yeah, we've got some places you take behind the community center, we're fixing to build a parking lot. So the concrete and stuff we're filling in back there right now with that debris because we're not going to lay any water lines or electric lines in it. It's just going to be field. And that's, you know, I know some other people have done that before and they're running that problem. They went to do a water line or power line and there's all this concrete slabs. But once you get that removed off there, even if they came in there with a, you know, you could probably get somebody to volunteer with a dirt pan and come in there and just move that dirt just a little and flatten that out. And once we establish some grass on it, the basketball courts were an asset if they were left.
I was going to ask that, I think you mentioned that in one of your...
And then one of the concrete slabs that we had talked about, or any of them that would work out maybe a little better. We've got several people here that are interested in a skating park.
The only thing about that, Keith, that I would think that it would have to be one that there was not any utilities under.
Yeah, no, I mean, all the, like Dr. Arbuckle said, the utilities would be moved all the way back to the street where the water and gas lines is and the power. Of course, there would be no utilities run to that existing building. Even if there was still something underground, it would be of no use because it'd all be disconnected from that slab.
Taken out from the slab.
And then because we're looking, of course, we would invest something in it to make it nice, but it'd be a minimal. You know, it's not going to break the city's back to have something like that. Of course, Mayor Sutton, you know, he'd often thought about us having a dog park. Right. And then you have a lot of interest, those people that would like to have that. And even making a simple walking track up there, because not everybody wants to get in their car and drive down to the river.
We have one there.
Yeah, you know, that's what I say. I mean, you could, I mean, it's just a lot of simple things that can be done. But like I said, I know I've talked to some of the council members in the city is willing to put forth that effort, you know, so that the school, if the school decided to keep the property, which at any time would have that, you know, it's your property, you could take it back at any time. But in order for it to look nice where it was set, the city would take it over. We've got the crew, you know, we've got the city park guys that can do it.
Well, I think that'd be great for the community would benefit from the property while it's,
Sure.
you know, while it's sitting there and the district's not using it. I think that's a win-win for the community.
You know, I went to school there. Right. You know, I was in school there. You know, that's what I saw Dr. Arbuckle. When this building was built, I was in the 8th grade and I was the first class in this building.
That's a long time.
A long time.
So are y'all, is the city looking for specifically for it to be a dog park? You mentioned a dog park and a walking track. And
Yeah,
everything like so just.
It'd be a controlled dog park like they have in other cities. And like I said, we have some people, they show up places that are not allowed to skate, be on skateboards, and we've asked them to leave. But we ain't got a place to, you know. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the person can build that. We're going to go probably to Poplar Bluff. Poplar Bluff's got a real nice one. Mark and I was talking about looking at there. There's some things that we could do if y'all decide to go that route.
I like the idea.
But the city would make it look nice, and like Dr. Arbuckle was talking about, we'd move that fence back to the existing road area, parking area, and then the parking be there, you'd have the entrances, and you got that good fence based all the way around for containment.
Another thing about it, you know, if the city, you know, oversaw it, you know, if we went into an agreement, you know, with the city, then they would, the police department would maintain enforcement on it, and.
We have an extra 360 camera, and
Yeah.
you've seen them out on parks. It would go there, it's
That's
20,
great.
it's a 24/7 system. It's 360 degrees.
Where does the liability lie? We own the property, but they're maintaining it and having.
It'd be on the city. It would
So
be,
y'all would have to-
that's what the
for our
MOU is
insurance
about. The
money.
MOU would put that liability in. Us being a city, we're not liable to be sued.
Okay.
Do you think something on the line, I'm just thinking of how things work with the school district, if something came up, we say, okay, we need to build a structure on it, some type, like maybe a 12-month, or do something that's renewable each year?
Well, we just have a contract. I mean, that MOU would say with, enough notice. I mean, like I said, we're not gonna have anything in there. We can't
Right.
move in a couple of weeks,
So that's just a simple one.
Sure, but I mean, it would be that MOU would say, yes, the school can give sufficient notice of 3 months even, and that, hey, we need that piece of property back on January 1st.
I think that's a win-win.
And but it would, Joe Ryder, our city attorney, would write all that up. Of course, it'd be approved by the board, the school board, and then, of course, it'd be approved by the council.
So are y'all thinking to do anything with the playground that's next to the hut?
Well, we were talking about removing
All the equipment?
all the equipment, because a lot of it's antiquated and in rough shape. And bless people's hearts, they had the right intention. I've seen those tractor tires everywhere they go. I've never seen a kid on them.
Well, when I was a kid, yeah.
Sure, that's what I say.
Like within 30 years ago.
They're like everything else. They
Are you kidding? You can't even get kids outside now.
Yeah, they've had their time.
Those were fun to lay in.
I think down the road, I think getting back to the concrete, I would be in favor of, since the city does have a place that's a short distance away that we can dispose of that concrete, that we remove all of
And
it.
that's what I told the gentleman who's wanting to make a bid.
Yeah.
He was asked, that's why he called me, he said, hey, trucking matters. The cost of trucking. If you got a truck at 10 miles, a lot different trucking a mile. And we're within mile and a half, 2 miles of where we need it.
Is that something that could be put out, that maybe we agree that that's where the concrete goes for whoever bids?
Well, you wouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
That'd
Well,
be,
because the cop.
they may have a place that they want to take.
That's
Yeah.
How much of it are you gonna need?
Well, we'll take all that they want to bring us.
Okay.
Well, because like the
Okay.
gym is solid blocks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's solid, that's
Yeah.
considered solid fill.
Sure.
And
And it,
Oh, yeah, we just run a dozer up them, they're not solid anymore.
yeah, they'll be crushing them down pretty good. But there'll be some, you're right, there's gonna be
Yeah.
some chunks, but yeah, we'll, whether we use it there or another place, we'll have somewhere.
Or
to
put it
go.
out that the city could use it, that way whoever
Well,
bids on
I
it.
We've even got enough land that we can haul it and dump it and use it later, load it.
Well, I think he made a really good point. If he's got a contractor that is gonna make a bid, the bid's gonna be less.
That's what I'm thinking.
He's only got a truck at a mile,
Yeah.
then he's got a truck at 10 miles, so I
And
think.
I don't know how many are looking at it, and I know this one particular one called me today.
They're gonna, so as it states now in our drawings and everything, we've said that there are a few things that y'all will remove before work even starts, but everything that's there when they get out there is theirs. Like theirs is in, you need to take care of it, or if you need to take it somewhere, if they know someone else, you've got people from Little Rock, Memphis, local, all over that are interested in this. I think there was the Southeast Missouri, you've got people all over interested in it. And some of them know the area better than others as far as where they can dump. Paragould has a good landfill for the asbestos. That stuff has to go through a whole process to get disposed of. But demoing the other stuff, if they've got somewhere that they can use it, if y'all really want, we can say, go to y'all first. But if they just take out all costs because they're gonna haul a bunch of it off on their own, they're gonna do what they need to, they're gonna think outside the box, so to speak, to get their price low, because, there's so many of them that they know somebody's gonna, save money because, you know, he called you and that sort of thing.
They gonna be able to take the 2-mile trip, or they gonna have to go the 5-mile around to it?
Well, it'd be.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You know,
Make a big
it would
difference.
matter on the size of
Yeah.
the truck,
Yeah.
you know.
I'd say 5, that should cover
You
it.
know, there's a difference in a true truck and a construction truck, or,
Right.
you know, there's a difference.
Yeah.
You know, if you're working on the spot, you gotta get those trucks, you gotta get those trucks in there and haul it out. I mean, you can't haul it out a wheelbarrow at a time.
Well, I guess one thing, I think that'd be good, but I guess we need to identify if there's a piece of that slab that would work for this case.
Yeah.
And if there is, what size are you talking about, Keith?
Gary, you know,
Isn't it the old nurses building that we were looking at?
You know, even the size, I don't know how big
What
this
that old-
room, you know what I mean? It's 50
Uh-huh.
by 60. You know, 3,000
think-
square foot.
I think somebody said that building that we're looking at is the one that's right up against the road, and I think it's the old nurses building, where the nurse used to be.
The one up by the road,
And even if we come along, slab small, we
Parent
can
Center.
add to.
Is that what it's
slab.
Was that
You
not
got
like
8
that?
acres, you got more or less 8 acres.
Parent
Parent
Center.
Center is up front. It's up front,
It's
Okay.
2 buildings, like, yeah, right there off Highland.
by, in the playground.
Yeah, it was the parent center, and then I think at one time it might have been the special education.
It was, it was the nurse, when I went to school, it was the nursing station.
That's why I'm thinking of that.
That's right.
They had a nurse way back then?
Oh, yeah, we had some nurses.
All them bikes they had to take one.
You betcha.
Them boys would.
We fought every day.
I'd say just work through that if it's feasible, you know, fine.
As long as there's no utilities,
Look, that's,
right?
you'd have.
As long as there are no utilities
yeah, there would
underneath
be-
that slab.
Just have Mark Tanner look at it, and get Dr. Arbuckle, and just work out something there. But I do think maybe that concrete over is the best thing because.
I was going to pile it on your property
No, I-
myself.
I'd want to move.
And I personally, I like the idea, I mean, of if we've got somebody who is thinking outside the box and calling around and saying, you know, hey, can I get rid of this over here and it's cheaper, it's gonna drive those bids down and it's better for us, and it keeps the school district out of, hey, you're taking this over here and you're taking this over here, and
I just thought it
when
might
they
be
may not want to.
able to put it out there that, hey, if you're looking for a place to dump it, the city will take it.
And then there again, like I said, once the rubble, if you will, is gone,
Yeah.
we can look at how the property lays as far as the city coming in and using our equipment and making it flatter, you know, or what
Right.
needs to be done.
Part of the scope we have now, and I told them all when they're out there, is when they leave, the ground needs to be, obviously it's not a flat site, but it needs to be at the same, like, sort of,
Sure.
you know,
Any big holes.
contours. Yeah, I'm like, it needs to keep draining.
The
It's
holes will
obviously
be
draining in
obvious.
one way. Yeah, we've told them to save the drainage structures there, like inlets from the sidewalk, up like on the north side. There's 2 drainage structures out there they like keep, so that that's always draining. You don't want all of a sudden come back and you've got to regrade things, but they don't have to go hire somebody then to come back and grade this perfectly. That would just be another cost that they're not, because they won't do that work. So we said fill in all the holes, like you're taking out footings, foundations, digging up utilities, but what they pull out, they can largely use, since we're not saying this has to be a certain kind of soil to support a building right now, they'll at least give us a site that, yeah, you don't have, huge hills here and there, and unless you want a huge hill somewhere, you know, we can help to do that, but.
That sounds good to me. I think that's a win-win for the district and the city and the community. Yep.
And
Okay.
that way you all still have your property until you decide what you're gonna do.
Well, like we're doing.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll work the details out. Gentlemen, ladies, I'm gonna go and get on
Go on the phone.
that machine, you stand there and look at it and see the other 14
Don't forget your
people.
phone.
Yeah. Believe me, I got it on sign. Sounds like a slot machine. Honestly. Y'all have a good
Thanks,
evening.
Keith. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and, somebody had mentioned the fence, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page as far as the paperwork. That fence, I mean, the fence that outlines the property, we want to keep that. All right. The fence that is on the, like I'm thinking of the north side of the building, where it kind of meets the building, we want to pull that up. We want to keep it because what we want to do is we want to relay it against the sidewalk to finish out the rectangle.
Exactly.
If that makes sense.
Just to close it off?
Yeah.
That way you got it all contained under a curb.
Or do you want the contractor to do that, or are you guys gonna do that?
No, I want the contractor to do it.
Is there a fence on the south side of those buildings?
There is a possibility there. that
Yes.
You have to measure that fence.
On the other side.
Because there's a dog on the south side of that fence.
But on the back side of the gym,
Uh-huh.
there's a fence?
I think
No, it doesn't
There's a
close.
parking lot back there.
The parking lot has like a gate and so.
Yes, it does.
We're
It
keeping
does. It does have
perimeter
coverage.
Yes.
fence,
Other than the
except for
parking lot.
Right there, we're saying get rid of that. But just when we walked out there, I guess that was just the understanding I had was to take the fence and gate out, but keep the parking lot. We can leave that fence and gate there too then, if y'all want. Because this, like, you come in off the road and loop up in here.
Wanting to keep the whole property encompassed, that's what he was talking about. So I'd say, yeah, we want to keep the fence.
Not any interior fences.
Why do we want to, I mean, why do we want to pay to relocate the fence? I mean, all the other city parks, no, but there's not fences around city parks. Why do you
Well,
want
but
the
if he's
fence?
going to use it for a dog park,
Gotta have.
there's going to be a section of
The whole
it.
thing is
No,
gonna be
no,
dog
I think he
park?
was talking about,
I mean,
you know,
I think that's up to the
This
city.
part.
See, I think if the city wants to add a fence, that's not a fence.
Yeah, I wanna
And there's
pull
one
it
along
here.
here that will.
there's that right there.
Yeah, so these are, like, we'll keep, all of this comes around and we'll keep it. And then, but when we keep these, we'll just relocate them as much as we've got. Like, as much fence as there is here, we'll relocate. We'll still.
And just pull it straight along here.
Just keep in mind that any of these big contractors that are bidding this to tear down, they're not fence builders. So we're
No,
gonna be paying 2 and 3 times the price of a fence builder to get this done if we do it all in one, you know?
Well, I mean, if they removed
I know it's
it,
easier to
we
just,
could come back.
I know it's easier to just get it done all at once, but at the same time, a general contractor who's tearing this whole thing down, they're gonna have to subcontract out a fence builder to come in and do that. They're not gonna do it. And so we're gonna be paying out 2 and 3 times the price to do the fencing back here. Versus just getting fencing done.
I think Chad makes a good point. You know, we've got a couple of local guys that we've used a lot.
Rick Rowe had to come in and do it.
We just let them take these back to do their thing and get stuff out, and we get somebody else. I think it's enough.
it's kind of like the seating that you and I talked about to this point. Like, instead of including hydro seating in this, because you'll have a bunch of dirt, turned dirt, come back afterwards. Somebody who got that now for a contractor about to bid this and say, I think it'll be this much money you'll need to spend, but they don't know because they can't see the areas they'll need to put it yet. So like, that's a finishing thing. Yeah, instead of them doing it now, you could do that. Anything like that that's a finishing type contract, yeah, you could
welcome to the
save
world.
until, we can tell them where to store it, like take this down, return to owner. You know,
Well, the only
shade
thing
structures,
we would
anything
ask
like
is
that.
that the contractor not take any more fencing down than they need.
Like, yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah.
And that should be enough, that front part, to get that stuff out.
Well, I think it's silly if we're gonna fence in these 7 acres. I mean, no dog park in the world is this big. Usually,
Well-
I mean, the dog
Well, I
park
think
is at a
he-
city park, but it's smaller and fenced.
I think the
right?
mayor was looking at it from a standpoint of if a kid got loose. You know, plus the fence around it with the 360 camera they're gonna have, kind of limit the in and outs so that they can
Well,
kind of keep
when
it
you-
monitored a
When
little
you really
bit.
look at it from a legal standpoint, under the law, it talks about curtilage of a property. Everything, a fence defines the property line. So there's nobody supposed to be in there, it's not supposed to be there.
But if it's a city, if it's a public park, you can be
Yeah,
in
but
there.
but
I
it's
mean,
control, you know, it's
I mean,
control.
have we asked the city? Like, I feel like if the city wants to put a fence up, they'll put a
That's
fence up.
city, they may put a 10 PM curfew.
Sure, and I'm not saying.
It defines the property line, you know what I'm talking about?
I get that, but we have other city parks and none of our other city parks have fences.
Well,
So I think and I agree with all that. I think the question we have to answer for these two is, do we, that yellow, where Katie's marked out that yellow fencing, we're gonna pull it up, right?
Sure, they have-
That's the,
absolutely.
so do we wanna pull it up and return to owner, or do we wanna pull it up and have them cart it off? I think that's a question we have.
Pull it up,
we want to
return
pull it
owner,
up
and
and
we
save
need to use
it.
it,
My
right?
suggestion, pull it up, store it in a safe location, and we'll cross this bridge, come back, see what we're.
That's right, that's what I'm thinking. You,
That would take the burden off.
you okay with that, Katie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That would take the burden off the
Since the
contract.
city said they'll maintain it, let them put fence back where they'd like to. If they don't want it, then they'll have that discussion.
Right.
and then
Well, or they could, if we've got it and they say, we want to put a fence here, we can just put it back up.
But you're not paying to put it back.
Here's the
when
labor.
they want it
They
Right.
got the labor.
Yeah, you got the labor, we got the,
Plenty of room down on that northwest corner, they can store it.
Right.
And it'll be out of their way.
okay, so that brings us to the second to last bullet point there. There's been some suggestions made about providing access to the public for the material inside.
material.
Well, there is a lot of stuff that's, I don't think it's useful to us. I'm just gonna say that. And there are some things in there that Rick is working on getting out, like the kitchen equipment. He's been working on that for a few days, I'd say a couple of weeks at this point. But as far as, there's file cabinets in there, there's some desks in there, student desks.
All those projectors are in there.
There's stuff that's, if it's still there, to Katie's point, what she said earlier, if it's still there, they're gonna cart it off. And my understanding is that there's enough in there that it makes a difference on number of dumpsters to the point where it could get sort of expensive, right? So the question becomes, does the board have any interest in either we've got community service opportunities. We need 9th and 10th graders have community service that they have to meet, right? We've got community service opportunities. We could, try to clear out that. We would have to get roll-offs or something to put all that stuff in there, but it changes the bid price a little bit, right? And there's been floated that maybe there's some things in there that other school districts or other schools might want, or, if there's a random person. I see all the time on Instagram, so-and-so has made a smoker out of this four drawer file cabinet now, that's something, maybe somebody wants all that.
My suggestion first, Symphony School District, I would really emphasize, contact St. Paul's. They have asked us before for some of that stuff, some of the playground equipment, and give them first shot at getting what they wanted before. A couple of years ago, they approached us and there was some questions whether we could even sell it then. But they were really interested in some of that playground equipment for their preschool program. And those are our kids too. They'll be over here. So
can we just give everything away? Can we just say Saturday, December 1st?
I think if we advertise it and.
Right, we can do that, right? Because before, like Gary said, it was questionable on whether we could sell some kitchen equipment because of the funds it was purchased with, but now are we saying?
I've had a couple of conversations with other superintendents that lead me to believe we have the ability to do that.
To do whatever we want.
The one problem we have is the first person is gonna say, I want it all, and then it's gonna take them months to come get it all, It's gonna have to be some sort of.
Bring your truck and trailer.
Yeah,
24 hours.
that building
Haul it
has,
off.
one thing about it, I think we're kind of talking about maybe January 15th is possibly on a start day. We'd have to say by January 1st, that building's gonna have to be cleared.
I'd say by Christmas break, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But I'm just,
Well, and what kind of access do they have? You just leave all the doors open and it's a free for all, like it's gotta be a controlled thing? and
Right, it would
manage
have to be
that,
controlled.
Who has the time to deal with that, you know, I mean, I'm all for giving the content away, I just don't want it to be an additional job, which probably would be correct. Or
We're
just
gonna,
something, you know.
are we gonna open ourselves up to any kind of liability exposure if, you know, you just let the general public come in and one of them goes in there and finds a 3-phase copper line like this, thought it was dead and it's hot and they cut it? I mean,
Surprise, surprise. No, I get it, I
So
understand.
we could define it as something that is not affixed to the
Right.
structure, right? It has to be carried off by a dolly, no bigger than
I
that.
think you're almost gonna have to have
Something.
multiple people on site, staff members, 2 or 3 or 4, and more or less watch what people, what do you want?
Well, what we're gonna do, if the board wants me to go that direction, we're gonna say days, right? We're gonna be out there this day, from this time to this time, or whatever, and if you want it, we'll open it up for you.
Another suggestion I would have as far as, maybe contact, Brad and see if they have any use for their, any of the equipment.
from what I've seen over there, there's nothing that's really, I think we would have already grabbed it if it had had any
I
value,
just worry about
features
opening
and
it to the
stuff.
public, because I feel like you're gonna get just the lookers, just the people that wanna go in and look through the building and
No, you
comment
will.
about why we're not using it,
You
and
will.
comment about like,
Honestly,
But there's no way to weed that out, right?
my personal opinion, I think we
Pay a
just
dollar, you get to walk through
let
your
them
house.
handle it so far as somebody getting rid of it.
yeah.
Well, you can always just, and this may not work, but this is what I see a lot. Go in there, so it's stacked, it's organized in the cafeteria area. There's a pile of whiteboards, there's some cafeteria tables stacked together.
It's all
Just take
there.
pictures, be like, we have a stack, like post on there, come this time, you could get a pile of this, like we have cafeteria tables, desks, whiteboards. And then if the simplest thing for the contractors is to say, we are gonna have out all loose furnishings when you start work. Because there were discussions during the pre-bid, since these are 2 different jobs, and Todd and I have talked about this a lot, the best way for us to know how to, right now, tell them to get rid of loose furnishings is to put it in both jobs, so it'll be a number that you'll get twice, but then also have a deductive alternate, which means we want them to tell us how much that we can remove from a contract, and we'll remove it from one, because to remove the asbestos from the floor, that stuff has to be gone. But a demolition contractor would normally take care of that, except their contract doesn't start. We talked earlier, that their contract doesn't start then. And some of the asbestos guys, were like, we may do, we do this. One of them said, yeah, we move it out, we carry it out. And then one of the demolition guys is like, we just bring the building down, haul it, separate it, some of this is clean fill, so it's hard to ask them that number, without saying bid with it in, but then tell us how much, because one of you, we're not paying twice for it. If you say all those furnishings are gone, it eliminates that. And if you're going to have them removed anyways, have your students, carry out the tables, chairs and stuff, and put it in the parking lot, and say you've got 4 hours to come in the parking lot if you want it, otherwise we're putting it in dumpsters,
We get
or
the
something.
football team or something over there for 2 hours, I guarantee we can get everything out and lined up along the parking lot.
And then people are in the building
Say by
looking,
the end of the day, it's gonna be gone.
Well, like you said,
You
those
know-
community service hours, you could send your high
If-
schoolers over there to clean.
If we're gonna spend the time and the money and the effort to get it out, take it and salvage it. Get whatever scrap money you can get out of it. I mean, if we're gonna waste the time moving it, organizing it and getting it all out,
We haul it to the landfill.
Yeah, but I've so much waste. I would love to see something be repurposed. So if anything can be repurposed for some John Doe that wants
I agree.
something, for
You
some
can
church.
even open it up for a fundraiser
Yeah.
for the football
Tables
team or something like that.
You never
Somebody
know.
donation, Somebody might donate, $100 to, because you're buying a $10,000 stove. They would have bought on Marketplace for $10,000, they may give you $100, $200. And it could be a fundraiser for the football team or something.
well, we're taking out the
Yeah,
kitchen.
the kitchen, we're
We're talking
talking,
file cabinets and desks and tables.
Okay.
there might be a few kitchen things Rick said, but
Well,
Yeah, some
one
of the
thing-
contractors were already talking about like, oh, they'll take the big mixer if it's not gone, but like.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be going.
But I just, yeah, so you might.
Moving
as well
that
put
thing's
it
like
out there
moving a
and
safe,
all
though.
you know.
I would like to reach out to other districts. I just show good faith and say, you know, we have this stuff, is there anything you can use, come and look at it. And to brag for their early childhood classes.
Or even the daycare down the road, just.
And another third thing, we've got a lot of local churches that might could use this, because, you know, we're building up several classrooms onto our church right now. And that's for kids. There might be some of that they could use. It's nonprofit is what I'm doing. These would be people that, you know.
So an open day for nonprofits and religious
Well,
organizations?
I would
and
say
open day
get
for
somebody.
The public?
Like the Ministerial Alliance, have a couple of the ministers come in and look at it and say, hey, is there anything you think anybody needs, you know?
You could divide it by Saturday morning from 8 to noon is for a nonprofit, da-da-da-da-da, and then after that, it's whoever for a couple hours, and then it's gone.
But then how do they have to show their proof that they're nonprofit? You know what I mean? You get into that whole verification of.
I think you want to make sure everybody has an equal chance at whatever's in there, right? So I would be concerned of, we're gonna, you know, how we're gonna decide, we're gonna have this group first crack, we're gonna give this group second crack, and then anything these guys don't get is now left over for these people, and these people are now complaining. So to me, if we're gonna do that, it needs to be, you know, we can have multiple days, but everybody's coming in on whatever day they want, given that we have multiple days out there.
And we're
I think
just
that's the only way it's gonna be fair.
talking about the Alma Spikes building, not the Kwanzaa hut, because it's
Right.
full of stuff too.
Right.
Okay.
Is there any way we could, speaking of that, to move some of that trash out of Quonset hut if somebody wanted it? Because there's a lot of old furniture that people might not want.
Maybe we'll do that at a different time.
Anyway, I thought we gotta get the building cleared out. I think what Katie said is probably, the thing we're doing is move the stuff out of the classroom. But the parking lot, or put it all in the cafeteria.
Now, that's all assuming that, you know, somebody shows up to move it all outside,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we're not gonna be able to do it if we got
I wouldn't.
two ninth graders show
And then you
up.
have to touch it twice if it doesn't go. I'd put it in the cafeteria, and then if it
Yeah.
doesn't go, the building comes down and it's done. I wouldn't move it.
Well, it's all gotta be out, to
Well,
Katie's point, because you gotta get to the floor.
Yeah,
Well,
she's
you
gonna
could at
run
least
it.
just have the cafeteria, right? Because well, my point is you don't want to touch it twice. So if whatever's left, something
I
not be
think the point
adjusted
about
to the
what if
rest
we're
of the
gonna do with
basement.
what's left, we're bidding it out.
Right.
So we're, as a school district, we're gonna have to get rid of it. So.
If it's outside, they can grab it with a skid steer with a gravel lawn, make it a lot easier than if it's inside the building.
Okay.
That's my thing, they don't want to manually carry it out from the door, it'd be better if it was outside already. even if
But
it's
then,
already
right, so then what does that mean as far as the bid of the demolition? Are they then gonna have to adjust for that to show that,
on.
okay,
But like
we've
she
got to
said,
get the whole.
they're gonna leave a separate bid for all the products on the inside.
Well, here's the thing about it, I really believe that if we put it out there, whatever, the city has equipment, and I think the city would work with us to get rid of it. To load it up. Because they
So
have
change
to-
the bids to where all furniture, all furnishings, everything will be removed.
Everything's removed, but they need to have that in order to bid it out.
I mean, we can do it this other way where we've got everyone, it's just also, right now I told them we'd have to get them more clarification as to, because I was like, if it's here, then it's here, but not knowing exactly, like some, because that includes even that, but that, like playground equipment, besides like kitchen equipment and all of that. They're gonna throw a number at it because they don't use it. And like the asbestos guys, if it's a guy who doesn't want to do it, that number might be crazy, you know. It just, there's a lot of variables.
I'd say we as a district need to get everything out of it. However we do, give it away, haul it off, whatever we do. So they can bid it out that the building will be empty.
Give me 5 or 10 teenagers, Saturday morning, I'll take her, get out and park.
Do
Figure
what?
it out. I'll manage a bunch of teenagers if you want me to, so.
Well, like I said, you got some kids that need some service time, just get all that stuff out there, and then, I have no problem with the public coming and take what they want.
Well, if it's outside, then anybody can walk by and take what they want.
If they take 2 things, that's still behind all law. So, yeah.
Don't put free on it, put $20, then it'll be stolen that night.
But I do think we'll have to get it out of the middle. I think we need to clarify that.
And we'll have enough that all loose furniture and equipment will be removed prior to the demo.
And then, if y'all decide, like, I don't think it's as big of a deal with the playground equipment, but if y'all decide you want to get rid of all of it, it sounded like the city probably doesn't, then we've got on here, remove all. But if there's some of it you're wanting to keep or something, then.
I think it's like the furnishings. If somebody wants them, they need to come get them before, because once these guys step on the property, I want them to do the work.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to have
Contingency.
But they'll have to write up the bid as it says, if you're saying remove all the playground equipment.
Yeah.
So even if somebody comes to get it, we're still gonna pay.
Well, but I think based on, and remind me, but I thought based on our conversation, it was also one of those that, if it's not there anymore, there's a way to bid that such
So
that.
adjust it after?
Right, so that if
Well, there's gonna be a lot of interpretation, because if there's one piece of the playground missing, the contractors aren't gonna charge any less.
Yeah.
And that's.
I don't, do you think that's a big deal?
I
we
don't
talk
know,
about
that probably has to do with the dumpster thing I talked about, how many dumpsters we need. Like with the furniture we talked about, we don't know if the furniture is gonna be in there. You can price it both ways. But if somebody comes and gets half of it, you're paying for all of it to be taken out.
It's highly unlikely that anyone's going to take all of the playground equipment. If they might take a little, maybe 1 or 2 pieces. It's just in the shape that it's in, it's not.
It's embedded in the ground.
Yeah.
They're not going to really cut towards and cut it off.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure.
I think removing the furnishings interior would be sufficient, and
That's
then.
the bigger, unknown for them.
They're not
Especially
like
those
much
who
playground equipment.
are just now getting the drawings, they missed the pre-bid, so they're not walking through all the classrooms, which is what makes that another unknown.
Right.
They don't know what they're looking at, necessarily, so.
So we need to figure out what day we can get kids over there and get things cleaned up.
I squared those 2 bullet points because I'm a little unclear as to what that all looks like, and I'm a little concerned that, of getting it done, so.
You don't think we can find volunteers?
Oh, I don't know. I hope we can. I'm unclear on the whole, I don't have a good vision for it yet.
Okay.
I gotta get a good vision for it.
Okay.
I do want to make sure, so we talked last week about leaving the shade structures and the soccer goals, the basketball goals, on one side, I think there's only one goal, maybe on the other side, it wasn't even shade, but some of that stuff that could be for the park, leaving it there, right, and we can tell them to remove it and return to y'all, is that still something?
I think those structures that you just talked about should stay there after talking with Keith. Now there is what is that? Is that the west side? I think the basketball goals to the west side are at a 45-degree angle.
There's no concrete.
That needs to go away.
That's what-
But the ones on the other side that have the concrete slab, let's leave those.
Yeah, okay.
Jennifer mentioned a good point a minute ago. We may be able to get 309 workers for the county to come over and clean it out.
The county could do it. They're always, looking for stuff to do.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
And
a
I
good deal.
don't care to talk to the sheriff.
We talked to the sheriff, said he approved that.
I like the people better.
You're not dealing with the kids then, you're dealing.
Right.
They used us, they have to see the girls softball field.
Okay. See, I just need a vision for it.
There you
There's your
go.
vision.
Thank you.
There's your
Get 'em
vision to
out.
get them out.
Okay. Katie, is there anything I'm not thinking about or that we need to talk about that we haven't?
No, I think it was really just wanting to get the clarification on what y'all want or what, we want them to take care of. Because that's one of the biggest questions. I mean, it's not complicated, like these people do this, so for them, they came with a few questions like that and they get it. It sounds like, I hope they get it. There's more questions I'll ask, but hopefully. But yeah, that's gonna clear things up a lot. For us, we'll have it all right, very blatantly clear then, and that should clear it up for them.
So do you then contact everyone that came to pre-bid, or how does that work?
So,
Communicate these changes?
yes, so we issued one addendum already on Friday to change the bid date from this Thursday to next Thursday, knowing that y'all had this tonight and we would clear some things up just so it's fair. Everybody gets a good amount of time to get the addendum. But everybody has gotten drawings. In order to get them, you go through like Jonesboro Blueprint or SRF, Reprographics, and they keep you a list. And like they get the drawings, then a list is kept of these people got the drawings, and when we issue an addendum, it's sent, like they're notified this is out there. So if I got them and sent them to Todd, again, these people do this, so they should know, like Todd should ask somebody if something's been issued. But if he goes through them to get it, he won't get notified.
Right.
Because there's people who didn't make the pre-bid who we found out are looking at the project, we wouldn't have known,
Also, on the bid form, when they fill out their bid, there's a place where they have to check that they received all the addendums. And so we'll have addendum 1, 2, and 3, and if they don't check that, then we won't accept the bid because they're saying they didn't get all the addendums.
Right,
And
okay.
their number's not going to be based on the same thing as everyone else's.
Right.
Yeah, when we make this change and issue it, it's not fair bid with everyone else's.
How do you communicate? It's not by mail, it's by email or phone call? How do they?
So a lot of these people will get it online. It's like an online, they can access the drawings.
Okay.
For those that want a hard copy, like Jonesboro Blueprint will print it, they'll go pick it up. When they get notified, it's an 8.5 by 11. If it's just like words, we're clarifying like the bid date. That's an 8.5 by 11. They're just told it's a new bid date. They don't actually need paper.
Right.
If I reissue that drawing, they can go get it online or go pick it, have like Jonesboro Blueprint or like some of the Reprographics print it again, and they can go pick it up then.
Okay.
Yeah. Used to, we were just literally having this discussion earlier. Used to, yeah, you'd mail out. Todd's like, we printed 80 sets of, hundreds of drawings and shipped them all over, and then for an addendum, had to mail all that out.
Right.
We're
past that.
And that's expensive for somebody.
Yeah.
People bidding, the owner, somebody's paying for those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, just to clarify, the bid date is a week from Thursday
Correct, the 14th.
here
Yes,
at
4
4
p.m.
o'clock, right? Okay.
For both projects. So we'll just go through one, probably asbestos first. It'll happen first. It'll have fewer bidders. And all bids will be delivered to you before 4 p.m. We talked about that. Someone can show up at 3:59. It's just, you don't start a bid opening early or late. You have to start then. Someone could walk in, hand it to you. They're all sealed. We'll open them all, and then move on to the next one.
And the reason we decided to do it here is because of the number of people who responded.
Yeah.
So,
A lot.
But after that, then y'all will look at, to be able to get to the doctor and
Yeah.
push bids, and y'all will, make sure everything is correct.
Yeah.
And then he'll bring a recommendation before the board.
Yep.
Sounds good?
okay, anything else for Todd or Katie?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
It's
Thank you all.
exciting that you got a lot of interest on it. Somebody is going to get the job done, right?
Yeah.
And you're not waiting around on their schedule because they're, with 1 or 2 bidders.
Right. Okay.
Hopefully they all decide to, they've still been calling questions, so I think they're still interested now. I mean, it's a good sign. They're
Yeah.
looking through it and paying
Good.
attention.
Right.
Good.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Thank you both.
Thanks, y'all have a good
Thanks,
evening.
Okay, as I had started beforehand,
Good to see you.
Thanks, Todd.
Todd, I appreciate it, man.
You bet, my pleasure.
We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Todd.
Be careful going home.
Oh, you need this probably, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, as I kind of had alluded, I thought we'd just add real quick to the agenda, just a quick conversation. I know that there's been a lot of, I'm going to call it information traded out there about bullying and about the concerns within the district. I know I've had a couple of different phone conversations with concerned citizens, very concerned about bullying. I know there's some concerns about, we talked about the bus, that kind of thing. But I thought it would be interesting to just have a quick conversation about the definition of bullying in the state of Arkansas. Because when it comes to schooling, the definition of bullying is very specific in the state of Arkansas. And other states may have differing definitions of what bullying is. We as individuals may have differing definitions of what bullying is. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary has a definition of what bullying is, and it is not the Arkansas definition of bullying. Okay? So that would just be real quick. When the state, several years ago, the state produced a anti-bullying law, a law designed to prevent bullying from happening. And as you guys are well aware, what happens when a law for education is passed is that law is then given to the Department of Education, and it is up to the Department of Education to write rules and guidelines about how that law will be enforced. Okay? And one of the first things, so the law is like 4 pages long, and it's fairly detailed for a law. The rules are 53 pages long. Okay? And so we have there's a lot of, stuff online, a lot of conversations that people have where they try to say, this is bullying or that's bullying, or the teacher's bullying my kid, or that kind of thing. And so I just kind of wanted to real quick kind of walk through and then answer any questions that y'all might have, or maybe there's research that I need to continue doing. But on page 4 of the guidance for bullying prevention, and I didn't include this because, like I said, this was sort of a last minute ad, but it very clearly says, what is bullying? Bullying is intentional. So the first piece about whether or not something is bullying is it intentional? The second bullet point says bullying is initiated by a student and is directed toward another student or a school employee. Okay? So what that means is teachers, adults cannot bully kids. Not in this definition. Not in the school, the definition that we are required to use as schools. Now, I'm not saying adults can't bully kids. I'm just saying that in the state of Arkansas, when they define what is bullying, the only person who can initiate bullying behavior is a student. Okay, and I think that needs to be clarified. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it and kind of get it on the record. Now, people will say, I don't agree with that. We talked about the definition of bullying in Arkansas schools is not necessarily the definition of bullying in the dictionary, right? And so I think that's a piece that needs to be clarified. It does go on to say bullying involves using harassment, intimidation, humiliation, ridicule, defamation, or threat or incitement of violence, and that is taken right out of the law. Bullying is in the form of written, verbal, electronic, or physical act. Right? So it has to be an act that's perpetrated upon a kid by another kid. Bullying may or may not address an attribute of the person being bullied or a person with whom the bullied person is associated with. So it may be somebody making fun of another kid for the way they look or the way they act or the way, I mean, that is accurate, but it doesn't have to. And then it says bullying causes or creates at least one of the following: physical harm to student or public school employee, damage to students or the employee's property, substantial interference with the student's education, substantial interference with the employee's role in education, a hostile educational environment for one or more students due to the severity, persistence, or pervasiveness of the act, substantial disruption of the orderly operation of public schools or the educational environment. Okay, and it goes on to say bullying includes harassment, and harassment is defined as a pattern of unwelcome verbal or physical act relating to another person's protected status that causes or reasonably should cause substantial interference. Okay, so harassment there is a pattern, and it impacts another person's constitutional or statutorily protected status. Okay, so again, it's very narrow on what that looks like, and it talks about including cyberbullying. And then it does indicate there are several forms of bullying behaviors. Could be derogatory drawings, threatening notes, printed graphic material, could be name calling, inappropriate comments, taunting, and it does say sexual comments, taunting, threatening to cause harm, hitting, kicking, pinching, spitting, pushing, breaking someone's things, right? But this is what I think is interesting. It goes on to say this is not bullying, okay? And it's very specific. Teasing or kidding. And it says, everyone to be considered playful teasing, both parties must feel the behavior is funny or appropriate. Individuals self-monitor and read cues to know if lines are being crossed. Conflict or argument is not bullying. So we could be in conflict with one another. We could be in an argument with one another, right? We could look side-eye at one another. That's not bullying. Rough play, if kids are horse playing, for lack of a better term, not bullying. Social rejection or dislike, I think that's a big one, right? I'm not getting to do X, or, they don't include me, or they're looking at me from across the lunchroom, they're bullying me. No, that's social rejection, or maybe they just don't like you, right? I mean, that's assertive behavior, acts of annoyance, rudeness, meanness, or nastiness are not considered bullying. And then it goes on to talk about microaggressions, statements, expression, actions, gestures that send a subtle message to certain individuals that because of their group membership, we don't like you, right? And those are all things that are, the public at large, when that stuff happens, people want to say they're bullying.
Did you say meanness?
Right.
And that's statewide, that's what schools follow.
That is what schools follow. And so there, I had a phone call on Friday, and the question came up, how many acts of bullying have we had in the district? And as of Friday, the number of reported acts, and that law does talk about it needs to be documented, right? Trail. And we can, administrators have stories where they meet with kids and what do you want to have happen? Well, I want this behavior to stop. Okay, I'm being bullied. I want it to stop. Okay, do you want to formalize it? Do you want me to handle it? Or myself, or do you want to formalize it and let's start the bullying process? I just want it to stop. Okay, great. then we take care of it, right? And the challenge becomes, and we talked about this at the board meeting, I think last month, no, the month before, where parents sometimes will hold on to that. Maybe they'll tell a teacher, but the information never gets to a principal, and then it's like, well, I'm done. We've been dealing with it, right? And there's not an opportunity to fix the behavior. We've had 10 that were turned in. We've had 10 that we looked at, and we've had none that meet this definition. Now, does that mean everything was okay? No, everything was not okay. Kids were being mean to each other. Do we address kids being mean to each other? We most certainly do. Have we addressed kids being mean to each other for years and decades? We have, and we will continue to do that. And if there is, I've made some changes. We've put the bullying report form on the landing page of every single school website. You don't have to go looking for it anymore. It's there, right? Somebody put on Facebook, call Dr. Arbuckle's office. Great, call me. Yes, please do call me. So far, I've had 0 phone calls.
How many of those people have actually contacted you and wanted to be on the agenda to come and talk to the board?
0.
So come talk to us.
I think
Don't go to social media with everything.
I think the important piece to this is continuing to educate our community as to what is the DESE, the Department of Education defined definition of bullying, right? And then how do we define these other behaviors? Well, these other behaviors are mean or rude or social rejection and while we can address those things, and we do address those things, we can't address those things as bullying.
Can't label it.
Because they're not bullying.
So when one of the instances of the meanness or the teasing or that, parents are made aware of that it was just not just teasing, that it was teasing or it was meanness, it wasn't effectively bullying. Is there information provided to the parent to help counsel the child on how to handle that? Or is it just at the school level between like the counselor and the student? Or, I guess, are parents educated at that time that incident occurs? This is how maybe you could also help your child while we're helping your child.
Yeah, I think the answer to that is yes. We continue to work on that. What I know is that the time for that conversation is not there, because even when you and I have that conversation, you're upset, you're emotional, you're angry, your mind is not open to, and no, it's bullying.
Sure.
It's bullying.
So maybe a follow-up or something, just to help maybe further inform some of those parents or help some of those parents. Because raising a teenager is not an easy thing, right? So if a counselor who's trained in that kind of thing could provide information to the parents, just as these are some things we try, maybe you could help us we could work together to maybe help get your child through this situation to make them feel better.
And we are periodically sending that information out.
Okay.
I know some of that information went out last week, specifically from this building, on the differences between conflict and bullying and how to respond to each of those. I think the time to have those trainings, those conversations are before and maybe a ways after we have those situations.
Sure.
Right? Because when you're in those situations, fight or flight takes over.
Sure.
And I don't want anybody telling me it's not bullying when I know it's bullying, right? Even though it may be your definition of bullying, but it's not the definition of bullying that as a school we're required to work through.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're getting better about communicating to the community and parents about
When you put it out there and
You
it's.
know.
We're trying, yes.
Read it, and you put it out there and it's on the website, on the page.
In our,
Available.
There's a bullying report link.
Something, that's just about all you
It's
can
at the
do.
very top.
and you know, our meetings are open to people to come in, you know, and talk to us about it.
It's one of these things now.
I mean,
Well,
Or reporting bullying or something.
you get some of the emotional things, you know, with those.
All right, is there anything else?
I don't think so. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.